Top of the morning to you. This morning we're going to make kimchi from scratch. Now, for some of you who don't know what kimchi is, it is really like a Korean sauerkraut, but technically it does not have to have cabbage. I learned that there's actually an international kimchi standard, and it needs 3 things in it to be officially a kimchi. These 3 things are garlic, ginger, chilies, and any kind of vegetable you want. Typically they do use cabbage, white cabbage. I'm going to use red cabbage today. I'm also going to use some carrots and also an onion. Now, for it to also be kimchi, it needs to be a raw, cultured food, okay? The reason the international standard came about is because a lot of people were cheating. They were just taking vegetables and pouring vinegar over it, calling it kimchi to give it that sour taste. But kimchi is a cultured, fermented food that develops that sour taste by the process of fermentation. And that's also what makes it a probiotic. So any of you out there who just want to pour vinegar over, let's say, your cucumbers and say, you made pickles. No, you didn't. If you cultured your pickles, you made pickles. But just pouring straight up vinegar on them is cheating, and it's not a probiotic. And also know that any cultured vegetable you make, the brine that's left behind is vinegar of that. So if we use, let's say, this cabbage, the brine becomes cabbage vinegar. In the same way, you know, I've made like pickled vegetables with like just carrots. So you end up with carrot vinegar. And you can use this on your salad and in other dishes just like you would any other vinegar. Except it's going to be far better, and it's going to be alive. Okay, so I'm going to just take off the first couple of leaves of the cabbage that are looking a little rough and beat up. Throw them in my compost bin. Okay, please use glass, something impervious. I am not a fan of plastic, and I'm not going to school you on why that is here. But I recommend glass, and I really love these vases from thrift stores. They're inexpensive, they hold a lot, and there is a secret in getting your pickled vegetables to come out fresh-like. We're going to have to keep everything submerged beneath the water, okay? We're going to make a salt brine, and that's the secret that's going to keep negative bacteria in check and allow the beneficial bacteria to take hold. So what we're going to start, we're going to put some water in here, distilled water. Let's see, here we go. Now, put enough salt that when it dissolves, it's enjoyable to your taste palate, because that's what your vegetables are going to taste like. So if you overdo it on the salt, you're going to have to just live with that. Another thing is if you put too much sea salt, it also prevents the beneficial bacteria from taking hold, the beneficial organisms. And so if your vegetables never sour at all, that's probably because you use way too much sea salt. So I'm not going to tell you how much to put in. It's always going to vary depending on the amount of water and your preference as well. But I'm going to put the salt in and let it dissolve, and then I'm just going to taste it. And when it gets to the point I like it, I'll know it's ready. So far, I have had all of my vegetables ferment just fine without exact instructions. It's rather forgiving. One thing you do need, please do use sea salt. If you use regular table salt, which is really just straight up, what is it? They call it sodium chlorine. Not only is that harmful to you, your things aren't going to work out the same for your fermented vegetables. It also leaves them a weird color. But as an alternative to sea salt, you can use whey. So if you look at your yogurt, like any of the little the watery juice floating on top, you can pour a little of that in as a starter to get your stuff going, if you don't want to use sea salt. If you use sea salt, it's going to come out crisp and crunchy, like al dente, but if you use whey, it's going to be soft. So keep that in mind, and you can play around with the textures. Okay, now, here's the deal. Some people like to shred their cabbage. I don't like to do that because I find all the little micro fragments want to float to the top, and that's where any weird activity is going to happen. If this happens to you, you can just scoop it out. But as for whether it's bad or good or safe to eat, your nose will know. When it's truly bad, nothing could persuade you to eat it. I am going to take off a couple of these leaves because what I like to do at the very end is cap off my batch with a leaf, working like a cap to keep all of the little bits I cut beneath the surface. I've weighed my vegetables down before with pebbles. I've also put like a smaller glass inside of the larger one to hold the vegetables down. That works really well. The vegetables are going to swell up, and it's going to push the water height higher, and it could overflow. So put a plate or a tray under it in case of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to not cut my garlic and ginger or peppers really tiny. I'm actually going to put them in larger pieces. Well, actually, the chili I'm just going to put in whole. Before, when I cut the garlic into little bits, they just all floated to the top, and it really made it a pain in the ass. So I'm going to avoid that this time. This is very simple, and have fun with this. You can experiment and use any kind of vegetable you want. Okay, first let's taste our sea salt brine here and see how this is going. Okay, I like it. It's pretty good. I'm going to use a little bit more. By the way, if your pickled vegetables get weird, you might not have used enough salt. If you don't use enough salt, it allows the negative bacteria to take hold. But I find when I tend to make the brine to enjoyable taste level, I don't run into any problems. Okay, so I'm just going to throw the garlic cloves in whole. I'm going to throw the chili in whole. As for the ginger, I'm going to just slice it into kind of flat, long pieces that'll be easy to keep under the water, rather than dicing in little bits like I've done in the past. Okay, as for the carrots, you can cut them up however you want. You can shred them. You could put them in whole. It's very forgiving. I have a friend whose family's from the Philippines, and he absolutely loves my kimchi. Okay, so now the onions. If you ever want to make your own yogurt, that's also very easy. If you use raw milk and simply leave it out at room temperature, you will get your yogurt. However, if you're at a disadvantage like most Americans are and you don't have raw milk available to you, unfortunately, you have to use a starter to get your yogurt going, which means you're going to have to take some existing yogurt and put a little bit in the pasteurized milk, shake it up well, leave it out at room temperature, then it will do its thing. But you're also going to find it's totally different than yogurt you get from raw milk, which naturally knows what to do without any extra help from human beings. Okay, I'm going to cut my onions in ringlets, but you can do it however you want. See? Okay, now cutting the cabbage. I've done my kimchi before where I just layered the cabbage in sheets, and it came out really good, but the thing is, it was difficult to serve, so I can see how when it's shredded or cut up fine, it does make it easier. But you could also cut it up at the very end. That'd be a pain, but... So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a combination. I'm going to cut some into shreds, but not really tiny ones. And then I'm just going to cap it off with the cabbage sheet I was telling you about. There are some people who will tell you you need to shake or stir your fermenting vegetables. I never do that, and I find it comes out fine, but I also find like flavors will be more concentrated when things are touching, like the chili, for example. Anything next to that's going to be hotter than elsewhere in the batch, but the heat will transfuse throughout the entire batch. Okay, so let's see here. I think I might need to adjust this a little bit. Okay. Now when I start putting this in, water's going to overflow and everything. That's fine. Some people put their water in at the very, very end, and you can do that too. Okay, it's going in. And remember, it's going to swell the food and it will heave up. It's going to get bigger and push water to the top, overflowing. And by the way, we are going to keep this out at room temperature. And as for how long it's going to take, it depends on the heat. Now, I live in South Florida. I do not have air conditioning, so it's going to happen rather fast for me. But if you're in a typical American home with your AC and all, but what I used to do at my other place is I would put it by the hot water heater. Okay, so basically here it is ready to go. You can do it in layers like I've done, or you can mix it throughout. Have fun, make it your own. Now what I gotta do is keep everything submerged beneath the water, and I will show you what I like to do as a simple remedy for that. You just get a glass that you can put in here and hold it down. And this shape of glass works great because of the varying diameter can go into this and fit very nice. Okay, I'm going to give a very firm press down, and voila! Let me find a plate to put it on for any upheaval that may happen. And now we just wait. And when this is done, I'll take it all out of here and I'm going to stir it up. So, that is Kimchi 101. You can apply this technique to all of your pickled vegetables and it will work fine. The only thing that got weird was when I tried to ferment the broccoli and cauliflower. It basically came apart. Maybe someone else has had luck with this. And someone was pointing out they bought pickled cauliflower at the store and it was whole and just fine. And I pointed out to them that's not a cultured food. That cauliflower they just poured vinegar on top of. It hasn't gone through the fermenting process. Now, some people, they get confused on what cultured foods really mean. Like, they think the vegetables are going to the opera and the ballet and watching live performing arts or something and reading literature. Cultured vegetables. Okay, I have a ton more cabbage and stuff, so what I'm going to end up doing is making another batch with some other flavors in it. So I'm going to put something else like, let's see, I have some zucchini, mushrooms, red bell peppers. Okay, so that is Kimchi 101. And making pickled vegetables in general. And it's very simple, so don't be intimidated by this. And a lot of pickled vegetables do take on this kind of sulfur-like odor that some people compare to eggs or a fart. I need to have cabbages, but again, like, your nose will know. And if something has gone wrong or it is not safe to eat, nothing will persuade you to be able to eat it. So the nose knows, okay? And don't be afraid of cultured foods. Some people, they act like they're gross, and they have a very childlike, immature quality about the whole thing. The truth is, without healthy intestinal flora, which cultured vegetables promote, cultured foods, you would die, okay? It'd be a medical freaking emergency. And what happens during that is they have to give you a fecal transplant, like put someone else's poo in your poo, okay? Someone who's healthy, or they've had people eat the poo, if not implant it the other direction. I just recommend you eating cultured foods to start out with, okay? Someone told me just yesterday they watched this program where this father, they did this experiment where they took this little boy, this poor kid, right? And he went from eating wholesome meals to fast food drive-thru like McDonald's every day. And they said a week later when they measured his intestinal flora levels, they were like ungodly and dangerously low. That literally by eating that food, it was killing off his intestinal flora. Likely from the antibiotics that are present in the meat. And there are also some other let's say, food additives and ingredients that kill intestinal flora. There's a lot of these preservatives and what have you. America is one of the few cultures that does not eat cultured foods. And we also lead the world in disease. Diabetes, cancer, obesity, heart disease. We have diseases third world countries don't. We are seeing an epidemic of diseases that in the early 1900s were unheard of or very rare, and now they're commonplace, and it's because of these very unnatural and disturbing practices we have with diet, and that is a fact. And that is that. One thing I have heard when you're making cultured foods, if your tap water has too many chemicals in it, it may not allow the beneficial organisms and bacteria to take hold. And what does that tell you about drinking that water? You think that doesn't matter or harm you? I can't wait to get off city water. I've been distilling my own water, but I don't want to pay for their chemical water anymore. I don't even want to bathe in it. And for some of you who think it's not a big deal or this or that, I just want to say, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Okay. So, let's see, on to my next little thing here, but I'm going to end this video for now. And thank you for watching and tuning in. Feel free to comment, of course, absolutely. Tell me any of your tips, or if you run into some problems, I can help you troubleshoot. I've been doing this for years, and it's been going fine. I've never gotten sick. Oh, one last thing before we go. I do like to put a cloth over this to keep out any little pests or something that might rear their little heads, like little flies. And so what I do, I just put a cloth over it like this, and then I put a rubber band around it to keep it on. So, not a very sophisticated technique. And we're done here. And now I just have to wait a week or two. The longer you wait, the more sour it will get. This is a natural way of preserving food. This is typically something they did back in the day before refrigeration. And you would be amazed at how long this food will actually last. And that people freak out at the idea of things not being refrigerated, but try to pickle eggs too. One thing I love to do after this is made and I have the brine, I'll take the brine to make something else. Like I love to do hard-boiled eggs, peel them, and then put them in your pickling brine from whatever vegetables you made. It is so good. But what's really fun, if you do the red cabbage, first off, this is going to come out a bright pink fuchsia. It is amazing. And then if you submerge the egg into that fuchsia-colored salt brine, which would really be a cabbage vinegar at that point, the egg takes in the color, and then when you bite into the egg or you cut it, you can see the beautiful hot pink going down to the white of the egg and then getting to the yellow yolk on the inside. It also does something to the texture of the egg that makes it really good and chewy. It's very unusual. So I love pickled eggs, so that will be part of the process later on once this is made, and then I continue to use the brine for other things and also like in salad. Okay, so thank you again, and until next time, bye-bye.